a unique predator disappearing in the darkness, a leopard climbing trees, a special alligator, a lizard with a long tail, and much more. In this episode, you'll see the rarest creatures ever captured on camera. Who are they? Well, before we start, I suggest you take a look at a few curious images and try to guess which of them depict real creatures and which are not. You'll find out the answer as the video proceeds. Have you made up your mind? Then let's go. And the first thing we're going to look at is a very rare creature, the black panther. Many people mistakenly believe that black panthers are a separate species on the level of lions, tigers, and other cats, but in fact this is not the case at all. Black panthers are called individual representatives of leopards or jaguars, which receive a special color. Black coloring of panthers is a manifestation of melanism caused by gene mutation. Moreover, their skin is not completely black, as you might think. The protruding spots are more or less always visible on it. Nevertheless, such coloration is very good for tropical forests. If the same albinism, on the contrary, makes the creature a noticeable target from afar, melanistic animals gain a significant advantage. Black panthers find it much easier to hide among trees or tall grass, especially in dark conditions. Black jaguars, for example, are called the ghosts of the forest in their historical homeland. In addition, scientists believe that dark-haired ones are more resistant to disease than their normally colored versions. Clouded leopard. The next unique cat is also very difficult to find in the wild, and I'm not even talking about its rarity. The clouded leopard itself is incredibly secretive and cautious. It also has very long fangs, so long in fact that they're considered the longest among other felines in relation to body size. Smoky leopards are larger than any domestic cat, but smaller than large wildcats. With a body length of up to 3.5 feet and a height at the withers up to 1.5 feet, it's more like a lynx and weighs up to 44 pounds. With such modest dimensions, you'd better not show to the predatory world. You should hide somewhere in the trees where they can't get you. And that's exactly what the smoky leopard is doing. He learned to jump through trees so well that he even began to hunt from them. He tracks down enemies, moves along the branches, and attacks them with a jump from the sky. Scientists note that this creature manages to move through the trees no worse than the famous monkeys. The creature also has different pupils from others. They never become completely round like that of a big cat. However, they never shrink into vertical slits. Instead, they have an oblong shape. Also, the smoky has an unusually long tail that acts as a balancer. Remember this picture? I'm sure many people thought it was a fake. However, this alligator actually exists. It was born in the state of Florida. This alligator is characterized by leucism, blue eyes, and naturally small size. At the time when these photos were taken, his total length was barely more than 1.6 feet, and he weighed only about 3.5 ounces. However, the white alligator will soon become big. The park staff feed it with chicken pieces and nutritious pellets developed especially for feeding alligators. By the way, do you even know what leucism is? Leucism means that in the body of the creature, any pigment cells are completely absent, responsible for the coloration of skin, hair, and other parts of the body. At the same time, such an effect does not apply to the eyes. And yes, leucism and albinism are different things. In the second case, the creature's eyes will necessarily have a reddish tint due to the lack of melanin. And in leucism, the eyes have a natural color because the dyes in the skin and eyes develop independently of each other. Well, another difference is the overall health. In the case of the alligator, for example, it has no diseases. But in most creatures with albinism, they're clearly visible, up to deformation of body parts. Rarest penguin. Yes, sometimes to determine the uniqueness of this or that creature, it's necessary to have a good knowledge of the subject. But sometimes just an open eye will suffice. While ordinary emperor penguins have white-black coloration, this representative of the species is absolutely black. Quite strange because the emperor penguins themselves are large guys, reaching a height of 4.5 feet and a weight of 100 pounds. They are easily recognizable due to their distinct coloration. black back and head, white breast and belly, as well as yellow spots on the neck. These birds cannot fly and live in Antarctica, warming up each other in the harsh climate with the temperature dropping to minus 130 degrees Fahrenheit. They feed on fish, and thanks to their unusual body structure, they can stay underwater for up to 18 minutes, diving to a depth of 1,650 feet. Golden turtle. I'll be honest, when I first saw this creature on the internet, I thought it was a joke. Like, there's no such thing as a turtle. But then when it moved and pulled its head out of its shell, I was speechless and realized that I knew nothing about this world at all. The turtle found in Nepal amazed not only me but also all the social networks where she managed to get to. Many unwittingly began to compare its dazzling coloring with the mythological embodiment of the Hindu deity Vishnu. But in fact, as scientists soon found out, the color was due to chromatic leucism, that is a general abnormality characterized by loss of color pigmentation. And usually such a phenomenon, on the contrary, leads to discoloration. However, in the case of this turtle, the dominant positions were occupied by cells with yellow pigments, xanthophores, and this got beauty. In Nepal, turtles already play a huge role. They're considered a cultural and religious value. Now just imagine how happy people were to see such a creature. But don't worry, no one kept it by force. They fed it, watered it, and released it back into the wild where they found it. Despite the potential danger that could be waiting for her there, no one was going to keep this creature in captivity. It's against the principles of the locals. Flat-headed cat. And now we return to the good old cats again and get acquainted with the Sumatran representative of the cat family. This species of cat is also called alien. Soon you'll understand why. The appearance of the flat-headed cat is modest. In length, it rarely exceeds 2.6 inches and weighs no more than 6.6 pounds. The eyes of this beauty are a separate kind of art. They're incredibly large and expressive, just like aliens have. However, they're needed not to attract the attention of the opposite sex, but to survive. With their help, this kitty is able to see the prey or the enemy, even on the darkest day in the most impenetrable jungle. Sighted and fast eyes become even more relevant in the case of this cat as soon as it turns out that it feeds on fish. Almost all day long, fish, amphibians, and arthropods are the basis of their daily menu. To make catching slippery buggers easier, even the cat's back teeth are sharpened like fangs. At the same time, no one knows how much this all really helps. The fact is that the population of flat-headed cats is quite small. It's written somewhere that there are about 2,500 to 3,000 of them left in the whole world. The fact is that these cats lead mainly a nocturnal lifestyle and almost never catch people's eye. However, the cats cannot hide from the consequences caused by people. Pollution of bodies of water by industrial effluents leads to the loss of animals' food base. This, in turn, hits their numbers much harder than hunting problems. California condor. This is the name of a very rare species of bird that's found in the mountains of California, Arizona, Utah, and Mexico. It's said that these condors almost disappeared from the face of the earth in the 20th century. The recovery program has smoothed out the corners a bit and corrected the situation. It's amazing that a strong feathered creature with a wingspan of 10 feet almost appeared to be extinct. How's that even possible? Well, it's very simple. Just because of its majestic appearance, the California condor was a coveted prey for any hunter. People specifically went to the places where this bird lived and were engaged in its capture for many years in a row. The situation was aggravated by the fact that the bird is active during the day. It's also very difficult for this condor to reproduce because they reach sexual maturity only by the age of 6 to 8 years. By the way, do you know how they choose a partner when they're preparing for reproduction? To attract a female, the male uses all his skills and starts circling at high altitude. The blood rushes to the male's head and the skin turns a bright pink or red color. The feathers on the neck become frizzy. The more spectacular the appearance, the more chances that the female will reciprocate and the pair will retreat to a secluded place where they'll breed. Long-tailed grass lizard. When I first saw this video, I was puzzled for a while. Well, they caught a lizard. What's the matter? But when the author of the video lowered the camera a bit, everything immediately fell into place. It turned out that it was not a simple lizard, but a long-tailed grass lizard, a very rare reptile distinguished, as you've already realized, by its long and amazing tail. It's said that it can exceed the length of the lizard itself by 3 times. Because of such a structure, the lizard could even live in the neighborhood of snakes. The locals, by the way, were scared of this long-tailed lizard for a long time, mistaking it for a crawler. They thought that one wrong move would immediately make it inject a portion of venom into anyone the creature met. However, this never happened for a year, 2 years, or more. Scientists have found out that these creatures are not dangerous to humans. Even more, with the same snakes, in fact, they have little in common. They do not get along very well. Look, maybe the crawlers are just jealous of our lizard. Despite the long ballast, the long-tailed grass lizard has not lost its speed. Small flies, spiders, crickets, and other multi-fingered critters disappear into the lizard's mouth before it even realizes that they're already being chewed. Increased speed is also necessary to save your bum. If the danger appears near the animal, the lizard slips away in a flash. And even if the opponent still manages to grab her tail, the long-tailed lizard will not hesitate to throw him away. The length you have to go to survive. For a long time, scientists persistently continued to study this rare and unusual creature to see what it really needed a tail for. After all, you must agree, a tail just to throw it off sounds somehow not very impressive. Or maybe the ultra-long tail is a safety rope for climbing trees. But the lizard hangs out mostly in overgrown meadows, so this theory is discarded. And the option of attracting the opposite sex is also not suitable because the male and female, purely visually, cannot be distinguished. The only obvious use for the reptile is during water procedures. The extended outgrowth becomes an excellent tool for rowing, and the long-tailed creature successfully swims even long distances. The only thing is that the long-tailed grass lizard rarely walks near water. Malagasy civet. And this is a very cute but insanely cunning Madagascar fox, which has one interesting feature. We begin with why it's called a fox by the locals. Purely visually, they have no similarities at all. The Malagasy civet is much smaller than the fox and has different proportions. It's characterized by relatively short legs, long neck, and camouflage clothing, which personally reminds me of a ferret. When it comes to hunting, the Malagasy civet can really resemble a fox with its diet. It hunts small rodents, but also does not hesitate to snack on insects or even fruit. In summer, the predator eats for two, for itself and for the tail. And here we smoothly approach the main feature of the Malagasy civet. Her tail is large and long and holds quite a lot of supplies, which are needed more than ever during the winter. With a body length of 1.5 feet, its tail can grow up to 10 inches. The civet doesn't hunt wherever it can, greedily gathering food. It also bears a strong resemblance to foxes with its cunning and territoriality. One pair of these animals owns hunting grounds up to 2.5 to 3 square miles. They mark their zone of influence with the help of glands located on the outside of their cheeks. Unfortunately, it's not enough to mark your territory. You need to be able to defend it. However, hunting skills of the Malagasy civet are suffering. Against this background, their population has decreased by about 30% in the last 15 years. Silky sifaka. As far as I'm concerned, I never thought before that such cute and funny primates exist in nature, looking like some plush toy. The silky sifaka, a large lemur with snow-white fur, is considered one of the fewest lemurs and one of the rarest primates in principle. Because it's a primate, it lives in a social environment, and everything about it is classically highly complex. One male can live with several females, whereas a female can have several husbands at once. Together, these snow-white guys search for food and defend their native lands. If no one claims their territory, they will not attack either. In terms of food, all their attention is focused exclusively on leaves and fruits. Unfortunately, despite all their peaceful intentions, the number of silky sifaka annually decreases and amounts to only about 1,000 individuals. We can only hope that people will come up with a way to restore the species. Such cute and beautiful creatures have no right to leave our planet. Ghost shark. You all know of a world called chimera. In relation to creatures, it means they have characteristics of several different creatures at the same time. There's a bunch of chimeras in history, but right now we're interested in one particular chimera caught on camera in 2016. I'm talking about the ghost shark, a fish that can't be confused with any other. Although sharks are very similar to each other, the ghost shark stands out, and it stands out much. Let's start with the time it's been swimming in the ocean at all. Analyses have shown that the creature originated long before some dinosaurs, over 300 million years ago. Its skin had a pale color, and its fins looked like wings. The body length was 5 feet. It's not yet known whether this is a standard size or vice versa. It's something too big or small. Such monsters live at depths of 2 miles from the surface of the water, so you can't encounter them by chance without special equipment, unfortunately. But why did I say unfortunately? After all, these sharks are quite aggressive, constantly poking at cameras, trying to do something to be noticed so people pay attention to them. Probably, as scientists believe, it's their unusual hunting tactics. They provoke their target and force the target to follow them straight into the traps they've already set. But in general, even if no one falls for their tricks, these sharks can easily catch up with anyone they want. Their speed and eyesight are great. Speaking of eyesight, it may seem that these sharks do not have eyes at all, but it's not the case. They're large and deep-set. Along with them on the snout of the ghost shark, there are a number of receptors which also help its owner to search for food. Horseman's Ghost. Berkeley is a medieval castle built in 1067. Today, it's partially destroyed and no one is working on restoration, which makes this place very popular with bloggers or ordinary guys who like thrill. One of these adventurers was 41-year-old Thomas Arnold, who didn't plan to spend the night in the castle, but just wanted to fly around it using his drone. It's officially illegal to do such a thing, but that's not the point right now. While filming, the man noticed a strange silhouette on the video by accident. At first, he thought that he just saw something that wasn't there, but when he got home and reviewed the footage, he realized that it was not a simple hallucination. Thomas actually found a ghost resembling a horseman who ran through the building. The man, as he later revealed in an interview, had believed in the paranormal before this incident, but this incident cemented his position forever. Curiously, the footage was repeatedly checked by the most experienced specialists, and none of them found editing on it. I think we can believe this video. Bigfoot. One summer day, a group of friends decided to go on an exciting river trip. Jane, Mike, and Sarah had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Each of them was eager to test their new kayak, and now the moment had come. They traveled down almost the entire river in their beautiful and amazing area, encountering many new animals, birds, and even fish. But there was something in this story that did not give them any peace at all. During one of their stops, the people spotted a strange creature somewhere in the distance. It looked like a human, but it was twice or even 3 times the size of a human. The creature was all covered with wool, and it moved from one side to the other and did not pay attention to people. The guys assumed that it was a Bigfoot. The footage clearly shows the Bigfoot carrying another, smaller creature in his hands. The monster was probably returning from a hunt and heading towards his lair. When this video was posted on the internet, scientists immediately called the group of friends and asked them to bring them to the location. The scientists explored the forest for over a month but never found anything. It's likely that this monster noticed the intruders, but just didn't show himself. And not wanting to be seen, the Bigfoot skillfully covered his tracks and moved to a more secretive place. A creature with a fishtail. The following story was leaked to the internet quite by accident. Initially, this data was not supposed to be published at all. It was early morning. The man behind the camera was walking along the forest, and that very day he decided to go even further, right up to the neighboring riverbank. Hearing the sound of cars, he was curious as to what was going on there. Usually this area is empty. Only the man himself drives there as he lives there, as well as 2 of his neighbors. But that day they had the company of scientists. It turns out that they had fished out a strange and mysterious creature resembling a mermaid. Its tail was clearly visible. It glistened, shimmered, and had quite large size. The man was right not to go to find out the details from the scientists. The data from his smartphone could simply be withdrawn. As soon as the video was posted on the internet, it was given strikes many times. They tried to block and remove it from public access. It was hardly the work of common haters, right? Probably someone from authorities was behind it. But why are scientists hiding the discovery of such an unusual creature from the public? Would it really scare the people? Or is there something we don't know? One day, a mom decided to capture her child playing on the kitchen floor on camera. She just wanted to preserve the memory of his carefree childhood moments. The shooting was successful. Everyone liked everything. Everything except for one moment that happened to them at the end of the recording. Behind the little boy, as if out of nowhere, a tiny elf flashed by. His mother immediately rushed to look for it under the furniture towards which it was running, but this didn't lead to anything. Do you think this is an editing or a real footage featuring an elf? What does it look more like? Dragons. Many people consciously avoid stories about dragons, considering them primitive and uninteresting. By the way, do you know where the legends about these fire-breathing creatures came from? Of course, no one will tell you the exact date and place. However, it's confirmed that they were heard about as far back as the ancient Greeks and Sumerians. The ancient writings spoke of these creatures as those which, in addition to their ability to fly and breathe fire, can also take the form of huge snakes, ready to crush everyone with their claws. But it was not only in the writings that this centuries-old belief in dragons was built. There was also plenty of evidence in history, including the remains of dragons. And here, for example, is one of the clips of people encountering a dragon in a modern city. And here it's important to understand that dragons are mystical creatures, but still those which really could or can exist. They don't necessarily have to have wings or breathe fire. Some may only be a couple of feet long, live in the ocean, or not be able to fly at all. Do you believe in dragons? Which of these creatures scared you the most? Let me know in the comments. Next, I'll tell you about rare fish that are born once in 1,000 years. What's that? We begin with one rather unusual and at the same time controversial picture, which my subscriber shared with me. According to him, this fish is real, and he caught it personally. The creature of the river was caught with classic bait and from the first seconds struck everyone who was on the boat. The fishermen unanimously declared that such a creature is born once in 1,000 years. The fish had 2 eyes, both of which were in the middle of the body, and identical tails on either side. This fish may not be real. It may seem that it's a fake and the picture's photoshopped. What if it isn't? After all, there are mutants on the planet, right? Maybe this fish has undergone some kind of genetic modification too. Write in the comments. What do you think about it? Pigeonfish. Speaking of mutants, our next rare guest was caught in China. People were shocked when they saw this pigeonfish in front of them, and the body of the creature didn't change in any way. It was a usual carp, but the head, you can see everything. It's assumed that most likely it was a grass carp from the carp family, which had a mutation. Some of the viewers didn't want to believe it and said the whole thing was edited. Others, as usual, believed in something mystical and alien and considered the fish a harbinger of the apocalypse. For me, the last version is some kind of nonsense. I don't believe in the editing either, but the mutation could very well have been, especially if you consider the fact that in the area of the city where the fish was caught, the water's been heavily polluted for the past few years. Alien. The next unusual fish case took place in Norway. A man was hunting for halibut, roughly understanding its size and habits. At some point, someone bit at the bait. It looked like a halibut was about to come out of the water. Even outwardly, looking at the prey across the water, that's what the guy thought. His instincts were wrong. There was a fish on the hook, but not a halibut as he had hoped, but some frightening creature with huge eyes, more like an alien. As the author of the picture said, he'd never seen anything like that, not even on the internet. Just look at those bottomless eyes. How could they ever grow so big? Internet users reacted to the post of the Norwegian quite quickly. They stated that he probably caught a rabbitfish, a creature that's absolutely harmless to humans. The only thing is that this creature lives at depths up to 4,500 feet, which makes it rather strange that the guy pulled it out near the surface. By the way, the fisherman who caught this monster dared to bring it home and fry it. And what would you have done if you were him? Would you have let the mutant go, or would you have risked tasting the exotic sea creature? Write in the comments. A monster with retractable jaws. Everything is comparative. There's a reason people hold that opinion. Before watching this video, I thought the previous monster with the big eyes was the pinnacle of horror and fear. But as soon as I saw what the fishermen caught off the coast of Taiwan, I immediately took my words back. Checking the nets after a long trip, they found these two creatures there as if they'd come to reality from a horror movie. These creatures had a glossy black hue that glistened in the sun, but their main distinguishing feature, of course, was their retractable jaws and 2 rows of sharp teeth. It's even frightening to imagine what they can do with them. Let's think of piranhas, which can devour a large meat carcass in a matter of minutes. It seems to me that these creatures would not be much inferior to them. The fishermen took the monsters to the scientific center, where the scientists said they had come across rare snake sharks. These creatures are still very poorly studied, so it's not yet possible to say anything reasonable about them or to explain this or that feature. An unusual catch. A married couple from the United States went on a boat trip on the sea, where they planned to go fishing. The process was fairly relaxed and pleasant. People were chatting and having a great time when suddenly their day promised to get even more interesting. Someone bit at the bait. The man immediately grabbed the line before it dropped overboard and started pulling the fish out of the water. Judging by the size of the fish, which fell through the rod, the catch was quite large, which meant that the people could dine on fresh wild fish afterwards. But then their plans fell apart in an instant as they caught a mutated fish. It turned out that a trout with 2 mouths was before them. According to the scientists, who were quickly given the footage of the find, the fish could have mutated due to pollution of the surrounding water or an injury received earlier because of another fisherman. As the couple said, despite the strangeness, the fish behaved actively and seemed perfectly healthy. As you understand, no one kept it for themselves. A couple of pictures were taken with the trout and the fish was released back into the wild. Curiously enough, people have been finding more and more mutants lately, and this fact can't help but be alarming. The world ocean is constantly polluted by waste, which provokes the mutations of even the strongest creatures. For example, sharks, which are the real menace of the seas and oceans, are exposed to unusual inbreeding. Here's a shark with 2 heads, which, far from certain, would have survived in its natural environment. Spanish scientists discerned the unusual embryo while still in the egg. They carefully extracted it into the light and studied it properly. This creature was placed in a laboratory and grown artificially. Some people believe that the reason these creatures are born is not because of water pollution, but because of overfishing, which negatively affects the genetic stock. As the gene bank is reducing, the chance of inbreeding is increasing. Once upon a time in Japan. Not far from Fukushima, a fisherman caught a fish of gigantic size, in the bottomless mouth of which even he himself could fit, as it looks like. From the look on the guy's face, he could hardly manage to hold it in his hands. What do you think he caught? Could it be a mutated eel or a common male sea wolf? It turned out to be exactly the second opinion. Usually this fish grows no more than 3 feet or so in length, but the individual found by the Japanese reaches a length of almost 6.5 feet. It's not hard to guess that all this became real because of the mutation that's still occurring due to the events of 2011, when the coastal waters of Japan were contaminated after the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Many scientists and ordinary internet users agree with this opinion. An alien spider. But the waters of our planet are rich, not only with strange fish. Sometimes during fishing you can catch some kind of alien creature similar to a spider, which has about 20 tentacles. It was found by a 40-year-old man fishing off the coast of the Thai province of Krabi. He was examining the catch of the day and accidentally noticed this monster somewhere among the other fish. The fisherman quickly tossed it aside and was already thinking of ways to get rid of it, but his curiosity won over his aggression. The man took a couple of pictures, poked the spider with a stick, and made sure that it was not just another twig but a real sea monster, and gently set it free. Imagine how frightened this man might have been if, as he was putting it back into the water, the spider had jumped onto his face, or at least on his arm. Shark with a human face. I don't know what's better, to encounter a spider that's ready to take over your boat, or a shark with a human face, which seems to look right into your soul. Off the coast of Indonesia, a man was able to catch an adult shark, which was just an amazing catch. Rejoicing, the man began to carve it and found 3 pups inside. 2 of them were exactly like their mother, but the third was a little different, to put it mildly. It had a human face, big eyes, and an equally big mouth. Fisherman thought he was being punished for killing a living creature, even a fish. He began to believe he was imagining things, and in a burst of happiness, the fisherman felt incredibly bad. But it was not his sick fantasy. The fish was more than real. The man dared to keep the baby shark and even brought it home. Next, I'll show you the most dangerous insects of our planet. Ants versus bees. A colony of weaver ants, or green ants as they're called, attacked a settlement of bees. It's not known under what circumstances the scuffle took place and what the insects didn't share, but the ants managed to pull off several individuals of rivals and finish them off, having previously taken them hostage. In general, this unusual species of ants is found in tropical forests located in Southeast Asia, Australia, as well as Africa. They're nicknamed weaver ants because of the sewing skills of the insect larvae, which nature has given them developed spider glands. They sew their own nests from the leaves of trees. Outwardly, weaver ants resemble small wasps or bugs. Their bodies covered with golden silver-colored pubescence. It's possible that the colony attacked the bees only to eat, which it did successfully, because the work of these insects is coordinated. Ants, bees, and wasps are all powerful insects, but what about spiders? Many people still think of spiders as insects, even though they actually belong to the arachnid class of the arthropod phylum. Nevertheless, spiders are similar to insects in some ways, so why not take a look at their battles as well? Stay tuned to see a tarantula attack a possum, a bird-eating spider in action, and the fight of one spider with an army of dangerous ants. A tarantula attacked a possum. In the forest of the Amazon, zoologists from the University of Michigan managed to film a tarantula attacking a young possum and dragging it down its hole to eat it. The unusual episode even made it into an article in a popular wildlife magazine. Scientists were able to film spiders and millipedes eating tadpoles, frogs, and lizards, but the real star was the large tarantula of the genus Pamphobetus, which killed a baby possum and dragged the body into its lair. Bird-eating spiders. The well-known bird-eating spiders are some of the most nimble predators of tropical regions. Bird-eating spiders like to weave webs, but they don't build nets to catch insects. Young individuals often feed on flies, beetle larvae, and earthworms. Adult bird-eating spiders prefer larger prey. They hunt insects and small vertebrates. Cockroaches and crickets are preferred for them. Though less often, but all the same, they also hunt lizards, snakes, and frogs. They catch rodents if they're very hungry, and there are no other options of dinner nearby. Despite its name, the bird-eating spider very rarely eats birds. But at the same time, bird-eating spiders can destroy birds' nests to feast on eggs or chicks. Though this happens not often and is rather an exception to the rule, hundreds of different species and genera of bird-eating spiders in most tropical, subtropical, and arid regions of the world differ in color and behavior in accordance with their specific conditions of existence. Although insects are their main prey, they're also able to hunt small birds. The footage shows a huge arthropod eating prey about twice its size. The cameraman who captured the amazing footage suggested he captured a Goliath bird eater, one of the largest spiders in the world. But some researchers have disputed this, arguing that the spider is a different species. Spider versus ant colony. What happens if a spider falls into a colony of swarming ants? Who would win in such an unequal battle? You can find out the answers to these questions by watching the following video. So we have a test tube with ants and a spider the size of a hand. Its body length is about 4.7 to 5.9 inches. Without further ado, we drop the giant arthropod into the container and watch what will happen. At first, the spider steps over the tube, trying to find a way to escape, but unfortunately for it, no such thing is found. The ants realize that an unwanted guest has come to them and begin to pursue it, trying to grab its legs. The spider, with its strength, manages to escape the grasp of its smaller opponents several times. After a while, more and more ants pull up to the scene and begin spraying their formic acid, blinding and paralyzing the huge enemy. Finally, the spider surrenders and sees no point in resisting anymore, since there are too many enemies. In the end, the ants win a victory because of their numerical superiority and combined efforts. Maybe there's even some philosophical meaning in this. Later on, I'll show you what was caught in the Amazonian jungle. Truth be told, this spectacle is not for weak-nerved people. Mysterious creature. In the depths of the thick Amazon jungle, a group of explorers set out on an expedition, hoping to discover new secrets of nature. They were burning with the desire to discover an unknown creature and learn more about the world around us. One day, while traveling, the explorers came across a very strange phenomenon. In the shade of the dense vegetation, they noticed a silhouette desperately clinging to a tree. As they got closer, they were surprised to find a creature very different from anything they'd seen before. The creature was about the same height as the explorers, but its body was covered with smooth, shiny skin of an unusual light blue hue. It stood on two legs and had two five-fingered hands, very similar to human hands. Its eyes were large and marvelously beautiful, with shades of green and purple. None of the group of scientists could imagine how such a creature could have ended up in the Amazon jungle. However, instead of fear or uncertainty, they felt only deep curiosity and a desire to learn more about their unusual neighbor. It's not known how this story ended, but I personally think that such a picture, as well as the story, may be real. We all know about the Amazon region and the various creatures that live there. What do you think about it? Is the picture real as well as the story? Or is it nothing more than someone's fiction? Common vampire bat. Desmodus, as well as big bloodsucker. These are the alternative names scientists have given to this uncommon, or wait a minute, just the opposite, common vampire. In captivity, this bloodsucker exists for about 12 years, which is quite a long time if you take into account its lifestyle. It hunts exclusively at night. It'd be strange if it were otherwise. So when it flies hunting, it tries to locate potential prey. It could be anyone. The main thing is that the target is large enough, appetizing, and at the same time asleep. When such an object for sucking blood is found, the common vampire bat lands on its body or sits down next to it and climbs up on foot. In its nasal passages, there's a sensitive thermal receptor which allows it to easily determine the ideal place for a bite. Most often, it's some point on the neck or in the ear area where there's a lot of capillaries. However, the common vampire bat doesn't bite its target immediately, as in some horror movies. First, he hit the area with its saliva. In 10 to 15 minutes, the area will no longer be felt by the prey. The effect is like anesthesia. Thus, the prey will not wake up and will not prevent the vampire from saturating itself with blood. The next stage is the cleansing of the area. It's important to drink clean blood, not some dirty hairs or wool. The big bloodsucker chews off the wool in the place of the bite and makes a small cut with its sharp incisors, from which the blood starts to ooze abundantly. The common vampire bat puts a folded tongue into the wound, and the blood flows into the animal's mouth without clotting. It takes about half an hour to satiate, during which time the vampire drinks about 2 ounces of blood, 1.5 times its own weight. Southern Tamandua. And this mammal is from the anteater family, although personally it reminds me more of a bear. The body length of this beautiful creature does not exceed 35 inches. Its tail reaches 20 inches in length, and it weighs 9 to 11 pounds. It seems that such strange size will not allow the animal to lead a particularly active lifestyle, but this isn't so. The creature has learned to perform such tricks on trees that it can be included in some acrobatics team. And all this despite the fact that apart from ants and termites, the southern tamandua doesn't eat anything. Yes, sometimes wild bees can be eaten by it, but no more. However, when you have a mouth the diameter of a pencil, you can't eat anything bigger than a bug. But the harness-shaped 16-inch long tongue is a real gift of God for the mentioned arthropods. Give this mammal just one day, and it will eliminate at least 9,000 ants. And that's despite the fact that this four-legged mammal doesn't just eat any ants. Some species can attack it, and it'll be difficult for the southern tamandua to fight back. But don't think that this mammal is weak and can do nothing but tricks on trees. That's not so. Behind his cute appearance, there's a real power in the form of 4-inch long claws, with which it easily opens up termite mounds like tin cans. Other inhabitants of the area see this very well, and for this reason do not risk attacking the anteater. If he uses its claws so easily and opens up termite mounds, then it will not be difficult for it to inflict serious injuries on them. Therefore, no one wants to mess with the southern tamandua. Bald Aukari. This is the name of a New World primate species from the Pithecidae family, the main distinguishing feature of which is a red, hairless face. It's no coincidence that locals constantly joke that a bald Aukari is a sunburned tourist. These primates live in South America in the Amazon River basin. Their range includes rainforests in Brazil and Colombia. These creatures can definitely be considered socially adapted. They constantly form groups that can total from 6 to 30 individuals. They feed on fruit, but sometimes they can also eat seeds or insects. The primates with an unusual appearance live near water, where there's dense vegetation. They come down to the ground quite rarely, either when they have problems with food above or if they want to pick up some fallen fruit after the rainy season. By the way, we somehow quickly skipped the part with unusual coloration of their face. Do you know what caused it? The thing is that the epidermis of their face has no pigment, but the capillary network can be perfectly seen through it. It's the blood vessels that give the bald Aukari such incredible coloration. Bushmaster. The alternative name for this snake is the surucucu. It's the largest representative of South America venomous snakes of the viper's family. Fortunately for people, there are not so many contacts with the Bushmaster in history. The fact is that the snake mostly lives where there are almost no people. At the same time, it's characterized by a solitary lifestyle. However, no one and nothing can escape from the sensitive gaze of people. The Aborigines said that these creeping creatures are definitely worth being wary of. Growing up to 13 feet in length and having several venomous teeth up to 1.5 inches long, the snake knows no fear. Despite this, it doesn't get into a fight, but instead prefers deliberate and careful tactics. Whenever it sticks out its tongue, it collects odors from the air, leaves, and soil. The tongue transmits this chemical information to sensory organs located on the snake's head. It's called the Jacobson's organ. And then the data goes to the brain. The snake learns who passed here and how long ago they did it, and can easily find them if it wanted to. Not a single animal or other poor creature appetizing to the Bushmaster will go unpunished. However, if the prey's passed here long ago, running after it's a bad idea. So Surucucu begins to wait. The snake's patience is incredible, so much so that it can wait in one position for days or even a week. At this point, it will spend extremely little energy. Amazonian umbrella bird. The males of this species are considered one of the largest passerines in all of South America. They can weigh from 21 ounces and grow up to 22 inches in length. If any of you want to encounter this beautiful bird, you should know that it doesn't go below 2,600 feet above sea level. It's not difficult to find the bird because it has a beautiful black plumage and a hairstyle that would be the envy of Elvis Presley himself. However, the main feature of the Amazonian umbrella bird is undoubtedly this strange thing sticking straight out of its neck. In fact, it's far from being a simple outgrowth, but a full-fledged throat sac, growing up to 14 inches in length. It's not difficult to guess that, because of such a large thing, the Amazonian umbrella bird is not very fond of flying. Mostly it gets to the point it needs and travels on foot. These birds try their best to remain hidden and unnoticed to others, silently eating fruit, bugs, spiders, lizards, and other creatures that the jungle will send them. However, when Amazonian umbrella birds reach their mating season, they no longer hide their location. On the contrary, they try to tell the whole world where they are at the moment. And first of all, of course, they call females. Males make a piercing screech, which is something between a lion's roar and a lamb's bleat. Golden poison frog. And this frog that's about to be discussed, I would call a total overabundance of poison. Why? Well, the fact that one touch is enough to kill 250 adults. At the same time, the frog is very hard to find. Yes, it's bright yellow, but it's only 0.7 to 1.5 inches long. Such a tiny body contains a full-fledged nerve poison called batrachotoxin, the lethal dose of which for humans is only 2 micrograms. And the frog can contain a whole milligram of poison. That is 500 lethal doses. A human accidentally touched its skin? Deadly poisoning is assured. Why is it so poisonous? The main version is that the frog gets poison from local toxic insects that it feeds on. What does a fish that's 100 times more dangerous than a piranha look like? Keep watching and you'll see the alien fish with 2 jaws, as well as fish with the deadliest venom. And we'll start right away with a rather large fish, which can give a head start to many others in terms of teeth. Its size can weigh up to 110 pounds, and its length exceeds 4.2 feet. With such an impressive size, the fish has as many as 32 teeth, each of which, without exception, can be compared to razor-sharp fangs. Because of its wide jaw and strong grip, it's almost unrealistic to get out of the mouth of the Goliath tigerfish, and therefore it rightly takes the position of one of the most dangerous fish in the world. Also, because of its very aggressive behavior, local fishermen often try to catch the Goliath tigerfish. This is a kind of challenge for them. However, not everyone succeeds. Maximum 1 out of 10 people can do it. This creature can chew up a fishing rod, swim against the current, and generally do everything that comes into its head. Payara. This creature, unlike the tigerfish, is not capable of surprising by its large size. However, it doesn't need it. After all, the Payara has huge fangs, which grow mainly from the lower jaw. By the way, it's because of these long and sharp teeth the fish was given the nickname vampire fish. However, the fangs are not the only thing the Payara can surprise you with. It's also capable of jumping out of the water quite impressively. The fish moves very fast and solves any problem with brute force. In short, this is a real bull, which if it sees the target will go right after it no matter what. Even a piranha can be handled by a Payara if it's in a bad mood. Although this species has become known for its terrifying fangs, it also has sharp, spike-like teeth all around its mouth. Even considering that the fangs only reach 4 to 6 inches in length, they're so dangerous that there are 2 small holes on the upper jaw, where these fangs sort of slide in when the fish closes its mouth so as to not injure itself. Red lionfish. If the previous creatures at first sight instilled fear and the realization that it's better not to mess with them, then everything's quite the opposite with this fish. I don't know about you, but I want to touch it. It's too beautiful. It has an unusual coloring, and it's even miniature. However, if I touched it, probably I'd be in trouble. After all, the red lionfish is very dangerous. It's dangerous with its venom, which lurks in the spines hiding under its fins. When the fish senses the danger, it begins to quickly spread the venomous fins and then actively attack, trying to prick the opponent. A curious fact: although this fish is very dangerous, it's still very popular as a fish for the aquarium. People are attracted by its amazing appearance. But what kind of fish you obviously don't want to keep in an aquarium is a moray eel. This huge creature, as thick as an adult's thigh and up to 10 feet long, can weigh up to 66 pounds. It has slime on its sides, allowing it to easily penetrate into a variety of caves and shelters. But the main feature of the fish, as you know, is not that. It's ranked among the most dangerous fish because of the real double jaw. The first one is where it should be, and the second one is in the area of the throat. That's why there's a legend that the moray was the prototype for the monster from the Alien movie, which had a second extending jaw. The principle of hunting of this unusual creature is quite simple. The moray waits for the night, hides in a shelter where it can't be seen, and as soon as the prey will swim by, it'll make a lightning lunge and swallow the prey. Speaking of preys, the moray is called the sea orderly. Do you know why? It turns out that these fish do not disdain to eat weak or sick fish. Moreover, these fish have been known as dangerous creatures since ancient times. In ancient Rome, there was even a corresponding execution. Unfortunate people were thrown into the pool with moray eels, and people watched the unequal battle, in which the victim was doomed. Before the brutal execution, the predators were practically not fed and accustomed to the smell of blood. Phew! I think the degree of tension has risen a bit. Let's change the subject and look at a variety of unusual fish, including the most venomous one, a unique fish that crawls out on land, and even the fastest fish in the world. It's going to be interesting. Stonefish. When you hear the name, you're unlikely to match it to any of the above. It feels like all this fish does is lie motionless at the bottom of the ocean. But the first impression, as is usually the case, is deceptive. This predatory creature is eager to suck its prey into its bottomless mouth alive, or poison it without any chance of escape. All the more so, the stonefish never has a problem with positioning at all. It's become so adept at its business that it's almost unrealistic to distinguish it from its inanimate namesake. The stonefish easily hides at the bottom and waiting for the right moment to attack the fish it likes. Actually, it would be wrong to call it an attack. This is where it all ends up much faster. One big nom and the prey's already in the bottomless stomach of the stonefish. At the same time, it's impossible to eat the fish itself. First of all, you have to find it. And secondly, this creature will gladly pierce all the enemies with its venomous spikes, located along the entire perimeter of the dorsal fin. By the way, the stonefish is considered the most venomous fish in the world. Even a human can fall into its trap, and the trap will be very painful. The fact is that the venom of this fish is complex and hits both the heart muscle and the nervous system. Without timely medical aid, the person will die rather quickly. Climbing perch. And this is a fish that is insanely, simply, terribly dangerous. And the paradox is that it's dangerous not so much because of its power, but because of the imbalance that the climbing perch brings to the world. The fact is that the creature has not long been settled in Australia, even though it's originally from Southeast Asia, and all because a feature of the climbing perch is the ability to get out on land. And then all the scientists sounded the alarm. The fact is that this fish is a very difficult prey. Many animals don't know it at all, don't understand this danger. As a result, snakes, rodents, birds, and anyone can try to eat the climbing perch. However, the attempt will be unsuccessful almost 100% of the time. This fish has an extremely effective defense measure. In addition to the sharp fins, the fish also has spines behind the gill covers. If someone decides to swallow this fish whole, it'll pay with its life. The climbing perch blocks the airways and doesn't let the predator spit itself back out. Thus, for example, snakes that have no idea what kind of fish it is will die one after one. And in the long run, it'll result in a disruption of the natural environment. It'll take at least a few years for the animals to get used to it. Hi-ho! The animals don't know that the little fish merely learned to get out on dry land. Who would have thought that it would cause so many problems and troubles? And the funny fact is the fish doesn't just go on land. It often has to move to another body of water. Snailfish. Next up is an inhabitant of all the oceans from the Arctic to the Antarctic. And not just any inhabitant, but an inhabitant of the depths. Despite its name, this is not some mollusk, but a real fish which has the title of the deepest vertebrate on the planet. By the way, its own body doesn't allow it to rise to the surface. It's too fragile for this process. The snailfish is permanently stuck at its depth. Its body prevents it from rising higher, and it's physically unrealistic to go lower, according to scientists. The fact is that below its depth, the fish would not be able to withstand the pressure. To give you an idea of how high pressure there is, the snailfish lives in an environment which pressure can be equated to the weight of 1,600 elephants. In such an environment, the fish swim normally, carry eggs that are about 0.3 inches in diameter, and eat all kinds of crustaceans. Curiously, living under such pressure, this fish has developed a number of adaptations that help it survive in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. It has extra genes to repair DNA and produce a chemical that stabilizes key proteins. It has also lost many of the genes responsible for its sense of smell, possibly due to limited dietary diversity. Sailfish. This fish is easily recognized from thousands of others. Let's thank its bright and large sail, after which it got its name. In addition, the name is quite symbolic because the sailfish is considered the fastest fish in the world. It's very difficult to see the fish swimming near the surface of the water with its sail unfurled and sticking out of the water. It's noteworthy that the fish spreads its dorsal fin only when strongly excited, and the height of the fin itself is twice the height of the fish's body. This fish is an illustration of how air intakes and spoilers on cars work. When it picks up speed, its fin kinda folds up. And when the sailfish turns, the fins instantly straighten and the fish changes its trajectory. This fish is considered the fastest one due to the fact that, thanks to its body structure, it can reach speeds of up to 68 miles per hour. The secret of success lies in its adaptation. The sailfish has learned to create special eddies behind the tail. Not only its body structure helps it in this, but also its sword-shaped upper jaw. That's all, guys. Which fish impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.